Most people spend their lives trying to stay out of debt. The wealthy spend their lives learning how to use it. That sounds completely backwards because we've been taught that debt is dangerous. Pay off every loan. Never borrow money. Debt will ruin your life. And sometimes that's absolutely true. But here's something most people never realize. The world's largest companies borrow billions of dollars. Real estate investors build fortunes with mortgages. Business owners expand using bank loans. Even many billionaires regularly borrow against their own investments. So how can the same thing destroy one person's finances while making another person incredibly wealthy? The answer isn't debt itself. It's how the debt is used. By the end of this video, you'll understand the simple calculation wealthy people make before borrowing a single dollar. Once you understand it, you'll never look at loans the same way again. 1. Stop thinking of debt as debt. Most people hear the word loan and immediately think monthly payments. Stress, bills, interest. But financially speaking, a loan is simply rented money. Think about renting an apartment. You pay rent because you're temporarily using someone else's property. A loan works exactly the same way. Instead of renting a house, you're renting money. The interest is simply the rental fee. Once you see debt this way, a much more important question appears. Can the money you're renting make more money than it costs to rent? If yes, the loan becomes an asset. If not, it becomes a liability. That's the difference. 2. The one calculation rich people never skip. Every successful investor asks one simple question before borrowing money. Will this investment earn more than the interest I'm paying? Imagine borrowing money at 5%. Now imagine investing it into something that consistently earns 9%. The loan costs 5%. The investment earns 9%. You keep the difference. That difference is called the spread. And that spread is where wealth is created. Borrowing isn't automatically good. Borrowing isn't automatically bad. The math decides, not your emotions. 3. Control more without owning more. One of the biggest advantages of borrowing is control. Imagine you have $100,000. You could buy one small property, or you could use that money as deposits on several larger investments. Now you're controlling much more valuable assets than your cash alone could purchase. That's leverage. Leverage isn't magic. It's simply using other people's money responsibly. When those investments grow, your returns grow much faster. Of course, leverage also magnifies mistakes. That's why successful investors focus on buying quality assets first, not just borrowing more money. 4. Businesses rarely pay everything up front. Here's something almost every successful business does. They delay payments whenever possible. Restaurants, retail stores, manufacturers, wholesalers, most receive products before paying suppliers. Why? Because selling first creates cash flow. Imagine receiving inventory today, selling it next week, then paying your supplier next month. Your customers financed your inventory, not your savings account. This is one of the oldest financial strategies in business. It's called trade credit, and businesses use it every single day. 5. Wealthy investors recycle their money. Many people believe buying an investment means their money is locked away forever. Not necessarily. Real estate investors often renovate properties, increase their value, then refinance them. Instead of selling, they recover much of their original cash while continuing to own the property. That same money can then be invested again. It's $1, working multiple times. This is why experienced investors talk about making their money work harder. They're constantly recycling capital instead of letting it sit still. 6. Cheap money is more valuable than fast money. Most people obsess over investment returns. Wealthy people also obsess over borrowing costs. A lower interest rate increases profits without requiring higher returns. That's why your credit score matters so much. Better credit often means lower mortgage payments, cheaper business loans, lower financing costs. Over decades, saving even 1 or 2 percentage points can mean tens of thousands of dollars staying in your pocket. Sometimes becoming wealthier isn't about earning more. It's about paying less. 7. The biggest mistake people make with debt. Debt becomes dangerous when it's used to buy things that lose value. Luxury cars, expensive vacations, designer products. The monthly payments remain long after the excitement disappears. Successful investors usually borrow to buy assets, things that generate income, things that appreciate, things that eventually pay for themselves. There's a huge difference between borrowing to impress people and borrowing to build wealth. Conclusion: debt isn't good. Debt isn't bad. Debt is simply a financial tool. Used carelessly, it can trap you for years. Used wisely, it can accelerate wealth faster than saving alone ever could. The question isn't whether you should borrow money. The real question is this: will the money you're borrowing produce more value than it costs? If the answer is yes, you're thinking like an investor. If the answer is no, you're simply creating another bill. And that single question may completely change the way you think about money forever.